All right, we're back. Welcome again, everyone. The Community Action Partnership is sponsoring this webinar through a grant that we have with the Office of Community Services. All of our webinars are recorded, and the presentations are available on the TNTA Resource Center. So just to start off today, we are going to do a little bit of technical information. If you can hear me through your computer speakers, that's great. That is how we intended for this to go. If you do lose that audio at any point, you can go up to the Communicate tab and Audio Broadcast to restart the feed. If you were to lose internet or have any issues with that audio, you can use the call-in number that was in your confirmation email and follow along with the slides, which are already at the TNTA Resource Center. You can email me periodically through the webinar. I will be checking that, so I will put that in the chat window, but it is cyiu@communityactionpartnerships.com. And of course, you can find me in the chat window at any point during the webinar. If you do have questions, which we do encourage you to do, put those in the Q&A box, which is also on that right side panel. We will be taking questions kind of as they come in throughout. We have up to an hour and 15 minutes today. We don't plan on taking quite that much time, but it is available to be able to take any and all of the questions that you might have. So again, this session is being recorded and will be posted. The tools described today are already accessible from the partnership's website, and I hope that many of you have been using the risk assessment tool and are looking forward to seeing the policy side of that. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Denise Harlow, who is with me here, to introduce us to today's speaker.
Thanks, Cashin. Again, my name is Denise Harlow, the Senior Director of Training and TA here at the Partnership. As many of our CAP agencies look ahead toward the organizational standards, and as you know, one of the proposed standards talks about an organization-wide risk assessment. We hope that many of you have found your way to the online tool. I know Melanie will be touching on that today, but even more importantly, she's going to be talking about the new resource around risk policies that go hand in hand with our online tool. Melanie Herman is the Executive Director of the Nonprofit Risk Management Center. Through the partnership, you have, as a member of the partnership, a discount to access their print materials as well as their conferences. They have tremendous resources up on their website, and Melanie has been wonderful training at numerous conferences of both the partnership here as well as many state associations across the country. So with that, I'm going to turn over to you, Melanie, and hope that folks will utilize the question and answer box to pose questions directly to Melanie. So take it away.
All right, thanks so much, Denise, and thanks, Cashin. This is Melanie Herman speaking, and as was indicated, I'm Executive Director of the Nonprofit Risk Management Center. And over the next hour or so, we're going to talk about some risk resources available to you. We'll talk about some general resources that you'll find at nonprofitrisk.org, and then we'll talk about the custom resources that have been developed specifically for community action agencies. So I'm looking forward to introducing these to you, and if you've already seen some of them, then it'll be a review of some of these great resources. And I really do hope you'll take the opportunity to send a question. You can send me a question about a general risk topic, or if you'd like to ask a specific question about one of the tools that I've mentioned. If you need additional detail, don't hesitate to pose that question in the Q&A box. Anyone who needs risk help outside kind of the boundaries of this program, you're welcome to contact me by phone or by email. So we'll review those numbers kind of as we go along, and certainly at the very end. So the first thing I wanted to mention to everybody was what we're calling our Risk e-News. And it's a weekly newsletter that comes via email, and it's always on a risk topic. I think one of the things people really like about this newsletter is that it's very short, and typically the newsletter will feature one article, and it's about a risk topic that we've been thinking about here at the Nonprofit Risk Management Center, and in some cases something that's come up in training that we've done as we've gone around the country presenting at conferences. So it comes weekly. It's easy to sign up. You simply go to nonprofitrisk.org and you click on that orange bar that says Get Risk e-News. I'm right on the home page. If at some point you don't want to receive it any longer, there's an unsubscribe button at the very top of every issue. There's also an unsubscribe option at the bottom. I hope you'll sign up for this, and I also hope that you'll consider sharing the link with members on your team and invite them to also subscribe. I think one of the things you'll find when you get the risky news and start reading it is that we really try to get leaders of organizations thinking about risk differently, thinking about the upside of risk and kind of the positive reasons we take risks to achieve our missions, but also thinking about some of the potential stumbling blocks to great risk management, some of the things that get in the way of helping volunteers and staff do their best work. So I think you'll find that the newsletter will be pretty provocative and help you become more knowledgeable about this discipline of risk management. I promise you it won't contain any academic, no theories on risk management will be explored in the newsletter. It's all about very practical, how does risk management come to life in a nonprofit organization? If you're interested in looking at prior issues of the Risk e-News, just to take a peek and see what we've written about in the past, you can do that by going to nonprofitrisk.org and mousing over the Library tab, which I'm using the little red arrow to point to that right now. If you mouse over that Library tab, there'll be a drop-down list, and one of the options will be Risk e-News. And when you pull up that page, you'll see all of the past issues. We've published, I think, 3 articles so far in January of 2014, and we'll be publishing another article this Wednesday. But you could also look at the prior year's issues, and you may want to just pick and choose based on the topics. So I hope you'll take a minute to do that, to check out those past issues of the Risk e-News. Another resource available at no charge is our newsletter. We publish 3 times per year, and the newsletter is called Risk Management Essentials. On the slide in front of you, you can see a screenshot of the cover of a recent issue. With each of these newsletters, we try to focus on one specific area of risk in a nonprofit organization. So as you see in front of you, the issue I'm displaying is the financial risk issue. So this was all about finance-related risk issues that arise in nonprofits, and each of the articles in the issue related to the topic of finance. We've done sessions on volunteers, we've done sessions on governance risk issues, and we've got some great issues coming up for 2014. There's no charge to review the newsletter, to read the newsletter. You can download PDF versions of the articles, or you can go online and actually, you would click on the arrow that shows up in the black bar on the slide in front of you, the forward arrow, to turn the pages of this publication as you read it online. So we offer it in several different formats to make it easy to read, very easy to download if you want to share articles with others in your organization. So that's Risk Management Essentials. And every time we publish a new issue of this newsletter, we mention it in the Risk e-News. So if you're already getting that newsletter, you'll get notices of when the new articles are available. Another resource on our website that I wanted to mention is absolutely free of charge. It's called Hallmarks of a Risk-Aware Nonprofit. Now this is a tool that's a little bit different from a standards tool in that it offers kind of some bold statements about what a risk-aware organization looks like. And along with each of the bold statements is a series of steps and suggestions and recommendations that we urge you to take a look at. And you can find the Hallmarks of a Risk-Aware Nonprofit on our website. You just want to go to nonprofitrisk.org and click on the tab at the top, which is labeled Web Tools. And I'll just draw, here we go, a little red circle around it, Web Tools up there at the top. So it's pretty easy to find. And if you click on that, one of the options in the drop-down menu will be this Hallmarks of a Risk-Aware Nonprofit. All right, there we go. There's the Web Tools tab at the top of the web page. All right, another resource I wanted to point out is what we call the Workplace Safety Toolkit. And that is also found under the Web Tools tab on our website. And this is a pretty substantial resource, and it's been accessed by really thousands of organizations over the last few years since it's been made available. And what it is a collection of documents, checklists, recommendations, narratives, all about the topic of workplace safety. And there's reference to both safety in a traditional workplace, in an office space, in a service site, as well as safety related to off-site events. Transportation safety is covered as well. At the very top of the Workplace Safety Toolkit page, you'll find a workplace safety quiz, something that you might want to share with your staff if you're trying to really strengthen knowledge and awareness of this issue. There's a tutorial, kind of a teaching tool. And then you'll see lots and lots of different topics covered. And anytime you see a term or phrase in orange type and underlined, it means that's a hyperlink to another document. So you can click on those documents to review those. Now this is a very, very long collection of materials. So we don't recommend that you try to print all of it, because if you were to do so, you'd use a lot of paper. So what we recommend is that you scroll through this page and you look for things that are of interest that you might want to share with others in your organization, and that you just print or save those pages that are of real, true relevance or of greatest relevance to your community action program. Okay, here's another free resource I wanted to point out, and it's called the Business Continuity Planning course, and it's also under the Web Tools tab on our website. It's free, and it basically teaches you about the subject of business continuity planning. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this topic, it's a subset in risk management, and really what it refers to is the steps that organizations take in order to reduce or even eliminate, in some cases, an interruption to a critical operation, something that is so essential that it must continue despite some sort of interruption to your normal business operations, such as a severe weather event that makes it impossible for you to get to your offices. Something that would happen that would just interrupt the way you do business. Well, for most organizations, there tends to be one or two services or activities that are so crucial that they must be continued even in the event of a community-wide disaster or, again, severe weather. So what business continuity planning does is help you figure out what are those mission-critical services that must continue no matter what, and it may be, providing food or shelter or some much-needed services to your population, to your service recipients, and what are those services that could be curtailed or shut down, if you will, for a few days or weeks without threatening the mission of your agency. So that's what business continuity planning is all about, and what we do in this tutorial is try to kind of walk you through the steps of how to figure out what are those services that should never be discontinued and must be continued no matter what, and how are we going to go about ensuring that they will be continued, and what are those services that could be curtailed for a short period of time, what is that period of time, and how do we take steps today to make sure that we'll be able to get those services back up and running as quickly as possible. All right, so that's a very short tour of some of the resources on our website. Just wanted to point those out to you. In a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about membership benefits for community action agencies. But now I want to talk about the specific custom tools that we've developed just for community action. The first thing you need to know is that there are several ways to access those tools. One way is through the Community Action Partnership website. If you go to the Resources section, and I've highlighted that with a red arrow on the right side of the screen, that green bar titled Resources, if you click on Resources, one of the options is online tools. You see the red arrow below the words online tools. So you just click on those online tools to get into or to access the resources that were developed specifically for you. A second way to get to these resources is to go to the website nonprofitrisk.org/CAP. And when you do that, you're going to see the screen in front of you. And it says, Welcome to the Community Action Partnership Risk Management Portal. So what we've done is we've created this landing page, which is a great access point for the two cloud applications we want to talk about. The first one is called My Risk Management Policies, and that's the newest resource, and the second is called My Risk Assessment. So this is what you'll see, and if you get to this page and you want to begin using these two cloud applications, what we suggest you do is click the Register button to get started. And the Register button is in that green bar at the top of the screen. Now, the third way to access these cloud applications is through the single sign-on membership page for the Community Action Partnership. So what's happened is the Community Action Partnership has signed on as a member of the Nonprofit Risk Management Center, which means that all community action programs across the country have access to those member benefits. The way to get to those member benefits is to go all the way to the About Us tab at nonprofitrisk.org, and when you mouse over the About Us tab, the third option down is Center Affiliates. You want to click on that. You see the red arrow is pointing to it. And once you click on that, you'll be prompted to enter in an ID and a password. Well, the ID for all community action programs is CAPA036, and the password is the word risk. So that's the third way to gain access to these tools. Once you've entered the password and the ID, you'll see the page in front of you, which says Community Action Partnership's National Training Center Affiliates page. So this is the landing page, if you will, for all of the member benefits to which community action agencies are eligible. And you can sign up for the Risky News here by clicking on that orange bar, or you can start looking at the two online resources, the Risk Assessment Tool and the Policies Tool. Let me go back to that for just a second, because I want to mention a couple of other benefits of membership, and we may have a chance at the end to kind of loop back to those and answer any questions you have. One of the most valuable benefits, I think, of our membership program is what we call Risk Help. And Risk Help is the opportunity to give us a phone call or contact me by email and ask any risk-related question you'd like. You might want me to take a look at an existing policy that you've developed. You might want to present a hypothetical scenario, or you may want to call and talk about something that's actually happening in your organization and is causing some stress and concern, and you just need an independent opinion or view or some guidance on the issue. And that's available to you at no charge, and we have a team of staff who are able to answer those questions. In some cases, the questions prompt us to send you documents or samples or ideas or materials that we have on file. In other instances, you really just need somebody to talk to and to bounce ideas off of, or to get a different, outside third-party view. So I hope you'll take advantage of that Risk Help that's available to you because the Community Action Partnership has become a member of the center. Another great free resource is what we call our webinar vault. We have over 120 webinars on a wide range of topics recorded and available for you to listen to and watch, either you yourself or somebody in your agency at no limitation, no upper limitation. You can watch these as often as you like. You can listen to and watch as many as you'd like, and you can share them with anybody you'd like in your agency, your volunteers, your staff. So basically what you're getting is 120 hours of training at no cost. And the risk topics covered in these webinars are pretty vast. I mean, everything from governance issues to HR to technology. I'm getting ready to record one on social media, legal issues that arise in social media use. So they're both general in some cases and very, very specific in others. And we call it the series of programs, again, over 120 altogether, the Webinar Vault. All right, let's talk about the two custom risk resources that were developed for community action agencies. And we'll start with the newest program. And we call that My Risk Management Policies. When you go to that landing page and you register, you'll have the option of choosing My Risk Management Policies, one of the two cloud applications that were featured on that original landing page. When you register, you then want to log in. And once you log in, you'll see a page that looks like this. You'll see My Risk Management Policies, a little program logo in the top left-hand corner. You'll see the Community Action Partnership logo in the middle of the screen that tells you that you're in the custom version that was developed for community action. And then you'll see the Nonprofit Risk Management Center on the right-hand side. Now, once you're logged in and you're on this welcome page, you can easily read the instructions about how to use this program. But I'm going to walk you through how to do that. For those of you that like to just jump in and get started without reading all of the instructions or the user guide, this webinar should help you do that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to click on My Policies, and that's a tab that appears in that blue bar at the top. And I've used the red arrow tool to point to My Policies. When you click on My Policies, it will take you to your virtual filing cabinet of risk-related policies. Now, for this particular user, and you'll see her name at the top is Jane Doe. For this hypothetical user, the system is telling me that there are no policies found. So this is what you'll see when you first log into My Risk Management Policies. You basically have an empty filing cabinet. And let me talk about the purpose of My Risk Management Policies before I go any further and show you how to use it. The idea is that every organization, and certainly every community action agency, needs a collection of policies that are applicable to staff, and in some cases you have a set of policies applicable to volunteers. In other instances, you may have some policies that are applicable to both. So we all need policies. Policies are an important part of a risk management program. Policies tell us what we can do, sometimes what we can't do. They offer guidance about how to do certain things. They tell us the boundaries of our responsibility and authority. They sometimes tell us who to talk to and where to go if we encounter a difficulty, if there's a crisis, if we are having a hard time doing the work that we've been asked to do. So every organization needs policies. And policies are developed in a number of different ways. In some organizations, somebody will sit down and start to write policies, explaining the do's and the don'ts and the musts and the must-nots. In other instances, and I think this is more common, somebody will look for policies that another organization has and simply apply them to the workplace. So perhaps I'm new to a community action agency, but before coming here, I worked in a social services agency. And back at that social services agency, I remember we had a social media policy. So when my new employer, the Community Action Program, needs a social media policy, I may say, you know what, I know where to find one. I have one from my prior job. The problem with developing a set of policies based on policies that you found elsewhere is that you've always got to take the time to customize and edit those policies to make certain that they really suit your needs and circumstances and the mission and scope of services in your agency. Unfortunately, most of us are so busy that if we can find a shortcut, we will. And the typical shortcut in policy development is copying or borrowing policies from another organization without taking the time to customize. So what we did a couple of years ago was develop a tool, a cloud application available 24/7 that helps you create custom policies and helps you do so in a way that's faster and more efficient than borrowing policies from somewhere else. So we think this is a much better alternative to copying and pasting and borrowing policies from another agency. So what you're going to be doing using this cloud application is creating policies for your organization one at a time, completely from scratch. So it'll be actually faster than it takes to find a similar policy online. But the nice thing is that you get to choose the specific wording in each policy, and you're doing that with the interests and needs and circumstances of your agency in mind. All right, so let's go back to the virtual filing cabinet, which we're looking at now. And you can see that blue button which says Add a Policy. In order to create your first policy, you want to click on that Add a Policy button. Let's see what happens after this. After you click that button, the system will say that you have 3 different ways of finding some sample language that you can use to create your policy. And so I've drawn these red arrows pointing to the 3 different options. The first option is to take a look at all of the templates that are in this system alphabetically. And just so you know, there are more than 200 policy templates in the system. Or you could choose to look at the templates by category. So if you know you're going to be developing human resource policies today, and you only want to look at human resource related policies, you might want to choose to view the templates by category. And then once you do that, you can scroll down and choose just the human resource section to find the type of policy you want to create. And then third, there's a keyword option, which means that if you know that you want to create, for example, a social media policy, you can search by keyword, just type the word social media, and the website will look for any policy that has the term social media in it. So those are the 3 options. Now just keep in mind that in terms of categories, there are 22 different categories of policies. All right. So we're still in the Add a Policy section, and I think what I did here is I chose to search by keyword, and I typed in the word blog or blogging. And what the system did was it pulled up the template that is on point, which is the blogging policy template. So that appears at the bottom of the screen. And in order to start creating a blogging policy, all I need to do is mouse over and click on that term blogging policy. And it will take me to the actual template that I can use to create my blogging policy. All right, so when I do that, a screen that looks like this will come up. And this is kind of the build a policy section of the tool. And what will happen is you will see boxes containing some text and references, and then on the left-hand side, an open checkbox that you can, with your mouse, click on to check, meaning I want to include this section, whatever appears in the box to the right, I want to include this section in my blogging policy. So what we're doing here is we're creating a blogging policy from scratch, and the first thing we're doing is saying I want to include the logo of my organization. One of the nice things about this tool is that at the very beginning you'll upload the logo for your community action agency so that if you choose to include that logo on policies you develop, it will appear there. You'll have the option of doing that. So in this case, I've clicked on our logo, I want my organization name on the policy, and I want the policy name too. And then the next box, the box that I've circled, the select box, to the right of that is the very first section of the policy, which is kind of a definition of blogging. And if we were to look at the entire screen, there would be half a dozen or so options here. So this is just showing us a couple of options, the logo, name, policy name, and this first paragraph. But with all of the templates in my risk management policies, there are multiple sentences and paragraphs and sections, and it's up to you to choose which of those sections you want to include in your policy. So again, this is a way that really walks you through creating a policy without allowing you to simply copy and paste. So for example, some of you may have noticed if you've tried this already or used this tool that there is no select all option. And the reason we left that out is that we didn't want people to log into this tool and then just click select all and include everything from a long list of options in their policies. We want you to specifically pick and choose the language that makes most sense to your organization. Now, every once in a while when you're creating a policy, you'll see some of the boxes are shaded in green. When you see green shaded text, that's telling you that the language is mutually exclusive. So there may be two sections that say very different things. And you can't choose both of those sections for your policy. You have to make a choice between one approach or the other approach. And anytime you see that shaded green text, you'll know that you're being forced to make a choice. Another reason why we don't allow the select all option. Once you've ticked off or checked off all of the sections of the policy that you want to include in your first draft, you want to go back up to the top of the screen and click on the button that's labeled Create My Policy. We've circled it in red so you can see it. Once you create your policy, your new policy will be in your virtual filing cabinet, and it's there for you to edit, to email others, to delete if you want to, or to open it up in various file formats. So the screen in front of you shows the various file formats and options that are available to you once you've created a policy. So we see the policy name, which is blogging policy. We see the status. It'll include the date that it was created. And then we see the action steps. The little pencil tool is the edit tool. So if you want to edit the policy and maybe change some words here and there, maybe you liked some of the language in the template, but some of the language wasn't quite right. You want to make some kind of minor tweaks to the language. Or maybe you included some things in your draft policy that you now want to take out. If you want to do any of those things, you want to click on that edit tool. If you decide, you know what, I created this blogging tool just to get the hang of how to use this, but I don't really want a blogging policy, you can certainly delete it by clicking the red X. On the second row of buttons, you have the option of sending an email. So if you want to email members of your team or of your board or of the committee you're working with, you want to email a draft version of your policy, you click that email button. If you want to look at the policy in HTML code, you can do so by clicking that second button on the second row. If you want to open up the policy as a PDF, document, you can do so. And if you want to open up the policy as a Word document, you just click on that little Word icon. Now let's say that I clicked the PDF version. What the system would do is pull up my policy. Now for this sample, and it takes just a matter of seconds to do so once you make one of those choices that we saw on the prior screen. For this particular sample, we filled in the name of the policy, which is blogging policy. We used the term test organization to refer to our organization name. And as you can see, we did not upload a logo. In addition, we only included one paragraph in our policy. Now this is the exception rather than the norm. Typically, a policy, whether it has to do with technology or HR or governance, it's going to include multiple paragraphs, multiple sentences that you've chosen when you're looking at that basic template. So you've made some choices. This is a very, very simple example of a policy that only really has one short section. So that's my risk management policies. What I want to assure everybody is it just takes a matter of minutes to create a draft policy. All right, we have a question from somebody who's having a little bit of difficulty getting to my risk management policy. So let me just go over that one more time. We talked about 3 different ways to get to these resources. A very quick way is going to be to go straight to nonprofitrisk.org/CAP. So nonprofitrisk.org is our main page. You can go ahead and type that URL in your browser and just add the /CAP to get to the risk management portal. So that's really one way to get to the resources. The other way would be to go through the Community Action Partnerships website. Start there and then click on Online Tools. But if you want to get to it pretty quickly, nonprofitrisk.org/CAP takes you straight to these brand new risk resources that were developed specifically for community action. And you may find yourself at nonprofitrisk.org looking at other resources, and then you decide, you know what, I want to get to those online tools. You simply go up to the box in your web browser where you can type in a new URL and just add the extension /CAP. The other way to do it is to go to nonprofitrisk.org and go all the way to the right-hand side to the About Us tab and mouse over About Us, and all of these options, starting with Mission and Corporate Sustainers, Center Affiliates, will start to pop up. And once you see Center Affiliates, mouse over that phrase, click on it, and it will take you to what we call the single sign-on page, which looks like this. It says at the top, Community Action Partnerships National Training Center Affiliates page. And you can get to both of the tools from this page as well. So I hope that is helpful to the person who asked the question. If you have other questions about navigating these tools, don't hesitate to ask. You can ask certainly during the webinar, but you can also give me a call afterwards, and I'm happy to give you some guidance or walk you through it on the telephone. And really, anybody on our team here can do that for you. So we've talked about my risk management policies. That's the newest tool. We've also talked about some of the other resources available at nonprofitrisk.org due to CAP's, the Community Action Partnerships membership, and then just some general resources such as our Risky News and newsletter. Now let's talk about the second tool, which is called My Risk Assessment. Now this has an updated look to it, some new graphics and some new functionality, and we did introduce this last year, and quite a few people signed on, and many of the people I met at the state conferences had already used this resource and were very enthusiastic about it. And then we went ahead and did some kind of new, added some new functionality and added some new graphics, kind of an updated design to it. So My Risk Assessment, again, is available from any of those 3 places we just talked about, those 3 access points. Once you log into the tool, I just wanted to remind you that one of the things we've added is the ability to go between the 2 tools very easily. So on the right-hand side under Risk Resources, you see the phrase Additional CAP Risk Resources are just a click away. If you were to move your mouse down to My Risk Management Policies and click, that will take you back to My Risk Management Policies. Once you are logged in to the portal, you'll be able to kind of get started with your risk assessment if you haven't already done so. This page explains how to go ahead and begin that process. The first step is to click the Assessment tab at the top of the page. And this narrative is explaining to you that you're basically going to work through a series of modules. And the way the modules work is they pose questions about your operations. And so we want to know about the scope of your operation so that we can give you very targeted risk management advice based on how you answer those questions. So what you're seeing in front of you now is the registration page. And this is actually the registration page you complete one time at the landing page, which is nonprofitrisk.org/CAP. Once you register at that page, you're registered for both tools, both the My Risk Management Policies and My Risk Assessment. And this shows you some of the questions that are asked in that registration process. It takes just a minute. Once you've registered, then you want to go ahead and log in with your email address and password, and you certainly can choose the option to remember me on this machine, so it's easier to get back in next time. And then once you're in, again, you're at the Time to Get Started page, and you want to begin by clicking the Assessment tab at the top of the screen to get right into the risk assessment. Now, what you're going to see next is a page that shows you all of the system modules. Now, I've made a screenshot of this page, of this web page, but I had to cut it off to fit it on the screen. So you're only seeing 5 of the modules, starting with Introduction to Risk Management and going through Human Resources. Under the status column, you can see the word Begin. There's a hyperlink to the word Begin. And what that's telling you is that you have not yet begun that module. And you'll see the word Begin until you've completed some of the questions, gone through some of the questions and answered the questions. Then you'll see that you're in progress. And when you've finished a module, the word Completed will appear. So to get started, you simply click on that word Begin. Let's take a look. Once you've answered some of the questions in My Risk Assessment, you're going to want to view your report. Take a look at the kind of advice we're going to give you based on how you answer the questions. Now, in terms of the option Organize My Report, you can see I've got my arrow pointing to View Report. But if I were to choose Organize My Report, I could change the order of the modules. I could move something up to the top, move something else to the bottom. Very easy to move the modules around so that they are in an order that makes sense to you. And then, of course, if at any time you want to move over and work on a different tool, you want to go back to My Risk Management Policies, you simply click on it under the Risk Resources heading on the right-hand side. Now, the screen that I'm showing you now is kind of a typical screen in My Risk Assessment. And what you'll see is the topic. This is the module Introduction to Risk Management, and you'll see some narrative. This particular narrative says this module explores the discipline of risk management. Risk management is a discipline for dealing with uncertainty. So a little bit of background on the topic. And sometimes there's a couple of paragraphs followed by bullet points. In other cases, it may be a slightly shorter kind of narrative introduction. Some of the screens in My Risk Assessment simply ask questions, and others give you background information. One of the things I wanted to share with you, I was at a community action conference recently, and somebody in the room raised their hand and said that they had indeed used My Risk Assessment. And I asked her about her experience with it. And I said, how is it working for you, and has it been valuable? And she said, the thing about My Risk Assessment that's so neat and unexpected is that it's such a great teaching tool. And she said she was the executive director of an agency with about 200 staff, and she had invited all of her staff to log in as added users to their account to just peruse the questions and get some of that feedback that is provided through this tool. She said, I logged in thinking it was going to give us advice about risk management, which it did. She said, but what I didn't realize it was going to do is teach kind of critical principles in risk management to our staff. And so now it's something that we actually ask everybody to log into. It doesn't matter if your responsibilities aren't specifically risk management, but we think it's such a great teaching tool that we encourage everybody in our agency to go ahead and log in and go through the modules. So that was great feedback. And I've heard that from others in the past, that this can be an educational tool. A couple of other things I wanted to show you is in My Risk Assessment, you'll be asked a series of questions, one at a time, and when you're asked a question, it will often appear like what you're seeing now, which is a statement followed by the possible answers. In many cases, the answer may be yes or no. You have just a yes or no. In some cases, you may have kind of a multiple choice question. You click on yes if the answer is yes, click on no if it's no. If at any time you want to log out of my risk assessment, you click the take a break button, or you can go to the top right-hand corner and click the log out button. Either way, all of your answers and the work you've done has been saved, so you can log back in at any time and continue. The arrow, the downward pointing red arrow in the top right-hand corner of your screen is showing the progress bar. So when you're in a module, there are two ways to see how far you've gone. One is to look at that progress bar and see where that blue dot is on the gray line. Another way is to look at the number that appears at the bottom. In this case, it says 10 of 23, which means that there are 23 screens in this module, and you're on screen number 10. So you know at this point that you're almost halfway through, and you've probably only spent a few minutes on this first module. To continue, after making your answer choice, you simply click the next button. When you get to the end of a module, you'll see a screen like this. This screen says Introduction to Risk Management. That's the module name. You have finished this module. Thank you. You may now do one of three things. You can review your answers. You can continue on to the next module, which happens to be governance, or you can click the Finish button at the bottom right-hand corner to return to the assessment page. Just to remind you, the assessment page is where you're going to see those two options, View My Report or Organize My Report. We call that the assessment page. Now let's say that I chose the option, Review My Answers. This is what will pop up, and basically it's a summary of all of the narrative that I read and all the questions I was asked and how I answered them. And this is a screenshot, so it's only showing the first two panels of this 23-panel module in my risk assessment. So if you want to be reminded of what you've gone through, or you want to share some of the narrative, the questions and answers with others, this is a great chance to do that by reviewing your answers. Now, if you were to choose on the assessment page the option to organize my report, this is what you would see. And basically, you're going to see the modules listed. And again, you're only seeing a few because of the size of the screenshot. You're seeing Introduction to Risk Management, Governance, Financial Management, and Contracts and Procurement. You're going to see the option or a column giving you the option to include or not include these modules in your draft report. So in this case, I've checked the boxes for all four, so it will include these four modules. Under the status column, you'll see whether you've completed the module or whether you've partially completed the module. And then the last column is the order column, which allows you to either move up or move down the module in your particular report. Once you've finished ordering or changing the order, deciding whether to include or not include a particular module, you want to click that View Report button. That's on the left-hand side of the screen. When you click View Report, the following screen is going to pop up. It'll say Stand By, Creating Your Risk Assessment Report. This will take a few minutes, and I promise you, in most cases, this takes only a few seconds. The system works very, very quickly, and unless you have an extremely slow internet connection, you're going to find that the risk assessment report pops up in just a matter of seconds. And when that report pops up, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see risk assessment report at the top with two formats available. Then you're going to see the name of your organization. So in this case, we came up with a hypothetical name, ABC Community Action Agency. And then you're going to see your report, starting with the Introduction to Risk Management module, unless you decided to change the order and put something else first. So this is the kind of report you're going to get. And throughout the report, there'll be specific recommendations based on how you answer questions, and you'll see your answers reflected in the report. You can always go back and change your answers, perhaps if you want to update your risk assessment after some period of time. If you want to change your answers because you answered the question wrong, or you want to provide additional information, all of that can be done by going back into the module. I've added a red arrow to the screen to show you that you can look at this in a text format or as a PDF document. Once you open it up in either one of those formats, you can save it to your hard drive. The only thing, or just look at it online, print it from the online version. The only thing we recommend is that if you're going to change your answers, or you want to change the report in some fashion, that you go back and do that online before reprinting it. One of the things that sometimes people do is they save the document as a text file on their hard drive, and then they start editing that document, and of course then the database version, the online version, the version on the web, it is now out of date because you've edited the document on your hard drive as a Word document. So if you want to make changes to it, we recommend that you try to do that online. Okay, so we just got another great question coming through the Q&A feature, which is about multiple users of these tools. And I'm so glad you asked that question because this is a new feature of the risk tools that was not available in the first versions that came out previously. And essentially what you can do with each of these tools is you have two levels of users in every community action agency, or the potential for two levels of users. You have what's called an account holder, which is the person who has kind of the keys to the castle. You have the ability to add and delete users. And then you have added users. You have an account holder and you have added users. If you want to add users, if you want to get additional people to help you complete the assessment or complete the policies or draft policies, all you need to do is go to this console button that's at the top. And if you go to that console button at the top, what you can do is you click on that console, and it will allow you to add users to your account. And they'll be added users, as I said. They won't have the ability to delete others. They can just go in and complete the modules that you assign to them. So that's a really great feature that we added recently, and I hope you'll take advantage of that. One of the things we've heard over the years is that many people want to use these resources, but they want to get a team involved because no one person in the agency really has the full view of all the risk issues. So they want 5 or 6 people to collaborate in developing, in completing the risk assessment, or in developing suitable policies, and both of these updated versions of these cloud applications allow you to do that. So you have an account holder, and that will be the person who registers, and then once you're in as an account holder, you have the ability through that console tab in the dark blue bar to add additional users. So great question. Thank you so much for asking that. So I think we've gotten through to the very end. So the purpose of the webinar was, again, to remind you about some of the free resources available at nonprofitrisk.org, to remind you about some of the free resources and discounted resources available for community action agencies because of the partnership's membership in the Nonprofit Risk Management Center. And then our third goal was to introduce you to the 2 custom risk cloud applications that have been developed for your use and funded through the Community Action Partnership. And they are My Risk Management Policies and My Risk Assessment. And keep in mind they're custom versions. They're available to you free of charge. And we really hope that you'll take advantage of them and explore them. And don't hesitate to reach out to me or anyone on my team if you have questions about the tools, or if you just want to talk to us about a risk topic. So the best way to reach me is at 202-785-3891. You can also reach me at melanie@nonprofitrisk.org. And again, I'm happy to take your questions about the tools, about the website, about membership, anything you have in mind that we've talked about or I have shown you today that you just need a little bit of extra help on. So don't hesitate to reach out. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up. And Cashin, I can turn it back over to you. Thanks so much to everybody who stayed on the call and watched the program. I hope you find all of these resources helpful, and again, that you won't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about a risk topic, and one of us at the center can be of assistance.
Sure. Well, we'll give people a couple more seconds to try to get in any questions if you do have them. We will be glad to answer them live here on the webinar, though, of course, if you do come up with questions later, either reach out to Melanie directly or find us here at the partnership, and we will get your questions, answer them ourselves if we can, or get them over to Melanie for you. Just as a reminder, there will be an evaluation that will pop up at the end of this webinar, so do let us know what you thought about today's program as well as your ideas for future things that you'd like to see from the partnership. It's looking pretty quiet on the question board, so with that, I guess I leave it over to you for any final words.
All right, well, again, I just want to say thanks to everybody, and I hope you'll take advantage of these resources and not hesitate to give me a call or send me an email, because we really want to help you use them. And then we'd also love to hear from you as you start to use them and put them to use in your agency, you know, how they're working. And if you, the last thing I should say is if you have any suggestions for additional policy templates, if you'd like to see some additional policies covered in my risk management policies, send those to me and we'll get those new items up just as soon as possible.
All right, then. Well, that sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great afternoon. Thanks.